Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stand. So this is massively frustrating me. We're going to talk about Ugarte and we're going to talk about why he is such a massive driver in completing this Ten Hag vision and making this Manchester United side go to the levels it wants to be. Because looking around today, there's a lot of United fans talking about Ugarte and saying how important he's going to be, but then there's a lot of people ridiculing that, saying, oh, he's one player, he's not that good, he's mid. Look, there is a very big set of reasons why Manchester United fans with vision can see from the past why a player like Ugarte sets everything in motion, and we'll discuss that. But of course, there is a massive if in the room, and the big if is if he can do this against the likes of Aston Villa and Tottenham and Liverpool across the course of a season. Because doing it against Barnsley or even for Uruguay or even for Sporting Lisbon is not the same as doing it in the Premier League. But there are three fundamental reasons that make Ugarte very exciting to Manchester United fans. When we think of Manchester United, we think of the midfield being overrun. When we think of Manchester United, we think about a lack of legs when teams break on us for those cutbacks and the amount of goals we score from that. And when we think about Manchester United, we think about our inability to win possession back aggressively. And Ugarte will, if successful, effectively solve those problems. Now, let's just have a quick look at the Premier League this season, and let's have a look at defensive duels. Surprisingly, he has played 2 games for Ipswich. Number 1 in the Premier League, and yeah, we've only had 4 games, is Calvin Phillips for defensive duels. He's had 12.55, winning 54% of them. In second place, unsurprisingly, is João Gomez of Wolverhampton Wanderers, who's had 11 he's averaging 11 defensive duels per game and winning 61% of them. If you look at Martinez this season, so yeah, number 1, Calvin Phillips is averaging 12.5 defensive duels per game with 55% being won. And number 2 is João Gomez with 11 defensive duels per game, winning 61% of them. Ugarte this season so far, 11.6 defensive duels, 60% wins of those defensive duels per game. That puts him straight in at number 2 in the Premier League. Straight in at number 2. Admittedly, that is Barnsley, Southampton, and 2 games for Uruguay. So the pool of evidence isn't that great. However, we know last season in Europe, I think he was number 1 for defensive duels. So it is a big if, but it's also it's an if with evidence behind it that Ugarte will, in the next few weeks, be one of the best defensive midfielders in the Premier League in relation to winning the ball back. Now, of course, it's a leap of faith, but that's what we bought him for. So if it's going to work, that's what he's going to do. It's not going to be, what I'm trying to say is, to all those critics out there saying, oh, United fans are getting overhyped about Ugarte, he's just one player, he's mid. We bought him to win the ball back and be the number 1 defensive dueler in the Premier League. He's already got those stats, all right, admittedly, in Uruguay games and Carabao Cup games and 20 minutes against Southampton. He's already pretty much there with Calvin Phillips and João Gomez of Wolverhampton. And obviously, in an Ipswich midfield and in a Wolves midfield, you're going to be a lot busier because you're down at the bottom of the table at the moment. So we've brought in a defensive monster. That's what we've brought in. There has to be assessment against better opposition, I agree. But that's what we brought him in to do. And that is why Manchester United fans are getting excited. Because if he comes in and starts having 11.5 defensive duels per game and winning 60% of them, we haven't got a player that does that. Not consistently. And suddenly you're winning the ball back. And then what happens is he plays, because he's quite good at passing. He's quite measured in his passing. He wins the ball back. We've got a turnover. He gives it to Bruno. A defensive side, which was on the attack, is now defensive, has suffered a turnover. Teams are most vulnerable in any sport when there's a turnover, whether it's rugby, basketball, whatever. A turnover is when you lose possession, when you're on the attack. Suddenly your mindset has to switch from attack to defence very, very quickly. This is where Ugarte works really well. So we have that turnover. He gives the ball to a more attacking player, and then we utilise the space and disarray that is caused in those first few seconds after a turnover. And I think people aren't figuring this out because they don't like Man United. They want Ten Hag out. They don't want to acknowledge that we might be slightly improving, and they don't want to acknowledge that we're looking at one of our key issues last year. winning the ball back and then utilising it quickly. Ugarte is brilliant at winning the ball back. That's why we've bought him. And he's also very good at pass retention, which is winning the ball back or receiving the ball and then passing it to the right option. Whether that's a 10-yard pass or 5-yard pass sideways. You get that ball into the right option and that's how you break and create. And that's what we did, obviously, against Barnsley and against Southampton at times. So that's massive for Manchester United. And that's why this signing could complete Manchester United's vision for the season. It's not going to make us win the league, but it is going to make us win the ball back. It is going to therefore make us win more games because we're going to create more chances. Also, the other side of it is he's very quick. Let's forget about the defensive duels because that's massive. But when we haven't got the ball, he's very quick and he's very defensive aware. So if we do get broken upon, he's mobile enough to get back and help the back four and also be there on the edge of the box for those cutbacks, of which we've conceded plenty of over the season last year. So I think that it is frustrating because I don't like United being attacked anyway, but I don't like this, it's only Barnsley, it's only Southampton, Ugarte's mid, because, we as fans, whether we're Man United fans or Liverpool fans or whatever, I can say that Mo Salah is one of the best players in the world. I can say that Declan Rice is one of the best midfielders in the world. I can say that Rodri is the ultimate conductor in world football, in the way that he runs the game. But it baffles me. We can only do what's in front of us. Ugarte can only play 20 minutes against Southampton, and he can only play an hour against Barnsley. And against Palace on Saturday, it's a big, big test. But he can only do what he's doing. But he does have a back catalogue from Sporting Lisbon, Uruguay, and PSG as a defensive dual monster. And that's why we bought him. So when people say, he's a flop, he's not good enough, we bought him for this specific reason, which is to win the ball back and give it to the better players to create the chances and to be quick and effective and tenacious in a midfield that was wide open last year. It ain't rocket science. It's very, very easy. And the reason one signing can complete a team and make it go up a level is the same reason that Rodri completes Man City and conducts it. And without him, they're not the same. Or Gerrard did with Liverpool. Or Roy Keane did with Manchester United. Or even Michael Carrick. Same position, same impact. So I don't feel that United fans are over-egging the pudding. I think United fans are actually the ones that are switched on here because we know the issues of last season. We know our inability to keep possession and we know our inability to be quick around the midfield. And this player, whilst there's a lot of pressure on his shoulders, he does have these attributes. So we have every right to go, if, and it's a big if, this works or works anywhere near works, even if it's close to working, the upscaling, that's a great point as well. If it works well, who knows what the limit is? Even if it works okay, it's something we haven't got and there will be an uplift. And I also think that what you have to acknowledge as well is when it's one player in that area, you've got every right to say it's going to be more impactful than maybe a right back and a right winger because he's playing centre midfield right at the core of the team and really sets the tone. Michael Carrick set the tone for Manchester United for almost a decade because he stood there in front of the back four, shielding it, took the ball off the back four and conducted with his passing. Rodri does it better, but a similar job at Manchester City. When I think back to the likes of Roy Keane could set the tone with passing. He was a very good passer, but also when he needed to, he'd just go in and crunch into a few tackles and get the team up, get the crowd up. And that's where what Ugarte probably lacks in passing range compared to a Carrick or a Rodri, because he hasn't got that. He's not a bad passer by any stretch of the imagination, but he is going to be a player in certain games where their heads drop who's going to be in there and winning the ball back like Martinez does as well. So I think it's a really good signing. If I've got one concern about Ugarte that I've seen, which I think is a valid one, it's the yellow cards. I've literally just done a video on That's Football about PGMOL and Howard Webb saying, we want more yellow cards. That's the thing that worries me, is because people like Ugarte, people like Declan Rice, people who want to go and win the ball back. I wouldn't even call it tackling. These teams are trying to win the ball back because they know the value of the turnover. Why are we now outlawing that? Why are we? I don't think at the very top level of football they understand football. And the evolution of football. Even in Pep's system, the press is to win the ball back. You don't win the ball back by, playing team tag. You've got to win the ball back through a tackle. And that's what worries me a little bit about Ugarte is the refereeing is so crap in this country. If he's picking up yellow, if he's tackling a lot, he's got more chances of getting soft yellow cards, and then it will nullify what he does. That's the only thing that worries me. The nanny state officiating in the Premier League. But apart from that, I think it's a game changer. A potential game changer for the reasons I've said. And I don't think United fans have got any guilt attached to that. Of course he could flop. Of course it could go wrong. But the reason there's the excitement is because the reasons we bought him are game-changing reasons that could complete the vision that Ten Hag has. Because everybody will be better with a player that's winning the ball back and giving them. Get your comments in below. What are your thoughts? Smash a like on the video. I'll speak to you later.